Hey everyone, welcome to HockeyBuzzcast today. We have a lot to get into today and a lot of stuff to talk about from last night. And the NFL draft here in Philadelphia today, which is not all that exciting to me, but I know a lot of people out there are interested.
Getting a little feedback off of somebody.
Yeah, we are. Say.
I'll lower my volume a little.
But yeah, let's
Well, Russ wanted to mention something.
I did.
Yeah, and it's sort of a sad pre-show, but
okay.
It is. Hold on. All right. So here's what I wanted to add. We all saw Miracle.
Yeah.
And there was a guy who played Jack O'Callahan named Michael Mantenuto, and he actually was a college hockey player. He played for Maine and in Massachusetts, and I had a chance to interview. I talked about it a little bit, but I had a chance to interview players that were in the movie. Well, not in the movie, but players that were portrayed in the movie, and then actors who portrayed the players, right? And so, it was a fun day, and Mantenuto was part of the that panel, and I spoke with him quite a bit, and the thing that I took away is, and I went and re-listened to it, he was like a guy that your typical Massachusetts guy. He worked at the docks. He did whatever he could, and eventually got into the movie Miracle after college, and it was probably far after because he's 35 now. So if you do the math, he probably kicked around for 5 or 7 years, something like that. And he talked about the level of activity they had to be at for that movie, and these guys were like a team. If you listen to the long version, I put it up on Audio Boom. People could just go on my Facebook feed and see it, or on Twitter at Sportsology. But they really acted like a team when you interviewed them, and even Eddie Cahill, who was on his own series again, and he was a pretty good goalie. Like, these guys were shooting on him, and they said this was like a good semi-pro team they had put together to just make the movie. And the funny part about that was, with Mantenuto, he said there was this one guy who was just chipping away at everybody, and he cleaned his clock. And the funny thing about that is, by fighting him and beating him up, is the producer said, hey, there's going to be a DVD portion of this, extras portion on the DVD, and if you make it to the extras, you get an extra $500. So Mantenuto was thinking, you know what? I might as well fight this guy. I'll definitely make the extras, and he did, and so he made an extra $500, and that meant something to him, and he laughed about it, and it just shows like the character of the hockey player, like that's what we expect. And this poor guy he got one more movie role, and then it went dry for him, and then he joined the U.S. Special Forces, and he just passed away, fighting for our country.
Wow.
35.
How did he die? How did he pass away? Do we know?
We don't know.
if it's special,
that's the only report.
If it's special forces, they're gonna probably limit information. And remember the whole thing with Pat Tillman. The details of what happened came out only months and months after. So if it was some sort of secret mission type of thing, then the Department of Defense probably won't release it for a while, or if ever.
Huh.
But he was 35 years old, and it really hit me because for that moment, we sort of connected, and I felt like we had a good rapport, and I could see what kind of guy he was. And I always thought he would get more movie roles. I really thought he was good in the movie.
I thought he was really good. He was really good in Miracle. Yeah, he was.
But it just didn't happen for him, and so he went and fought for our country, and then this happens, and it's just, but at least he had that moment. He was clearly proud about being in that movie. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah.
Well, that is sad. I mean, that's a movie that we've watched hundreds of times here. This is that's my daughter's favorite movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely a star in that movie for sure. It was surprising, actually. But wow. Well, his thoughts go out to his family. It's really sad. Let's get into the show, shall we? We're getting a little more echoey. Do I need to talk a little louder, Russ, perhaps?
Maybe. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, you're doing everything. Everything looks good, but it's not terrible. But it's something that is definitely.
It's a little squeaky. I lowered the volume. Oh.
Yeah, that's fine. That seems okay. Let's go with it from there.
Let's roll with it.
Not too bad. All right, here we go. Ready? Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, April 27th, 2017.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And last night, we began the second round of the playoffs, and it was pretty interesting. I thought we had two really, for first, what I was expecting last night were two games where you had teams that were, I'll mute you, Russ, for a second, just for a second. Until we get that. So I got it. I can mute you from there, and I can unmute you too, I think. Can I? Can you unmute yourself? I'm sorry, guys, about this technical aspect of things. Can you unmute yourself for us or not? I don't know if I can unmute you, because that's a weird thing. Rats.
Just log off, log back in.
Log off and log back on. I'm sorry, Russ. I just realized that, when you're using their phone, you might not have that ability. That's really funny. You can't unmute. Anyway, I thought, Mike, last night's games were really good games for teams that had some time off. Like I thought the quality of the games, and it felt like both of those series got right into it. Like it wasn't like a matter of these teams taking a time to feel out. Like we sometimes see the second round, the first couple games of the second round tend to be a little bit of a letdown.
Well, I was actually struck by the fact that they were more high scoring and not wide open offensively, but more offensive than most of the games in round one. Maybe it's a symptom of the teams getting worn down a little bit. Maybe it's the better competition. I'm not sure. All I know is that you had one game that was 4-3, another game that was 5-3, and the goals seemed to come a little easier than they did early on in the playoffs.
They basically were the same game. They basically were 4-3 games, and they were 4-3 games. What was interesting about it to me is that just what both games had had as far as similarities go, is both games had moments in time where each team dominated the other team. Like you saw this is what happens when you get good teams, right? You have good teams going in the playoffs, and good teams will have, they got there because they have the ability to dominate a game, and you saw that trading off kind of. It felt like, especially in Nashville, St. Louis, there was a big trade off. The second period was all Nashville. The third period was all St. Louis. So it was fun to watch it develop, and I think both Nashville and Edmonton have to feel a little bit fortunate that they got out of that they got wins in those games, because I think that both of them really got not lucky wins, but they got good breaks at the right time. Both those goals were kind of fortunate.
Well, I mean, we all predicted that these series would be long, so it's not surprising that a road team like Edmonton won game one. But I think these teams are fair. I still think Anaheim is the better and the more experienced of the two teams. And but regarding St. Louis and Nashville, I mean, they're very even. They're very the difference in last night's game was PK Subban getting 3 points. But St. Louis has weapons. Again, and we mentioned this yesterday. When you have a guy like Jake Allen who played great in the first round, maybe there'd be a little bit of letdown. Maybe there'd be a little bit of coming back down to earth. And I thought that was the case, because I didn't think he played particularly strong yesterday from what I saw. And if Jake Allen is not the Jake Allen of the first round, if he's more the Jake Allen of the middle of the season, then I think St. Louis is in trouble.
Yeah. I do too, and I think that when you look at it, the Predators, it's hard to say. Like, I would say this:
send Russ an invite.
Yeah, I just did. I sent him another one. I'll send him another one now, though. Sorry, we're getting Russ coming back on here.
I'm listening. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So I just got the other invite. So I felt like the Blues looked like the better team more than the Predators looked like the better team last night, but there we go. Hey, Russ.
Hey.
But so I'm talking about the Blues Predators game. I felt like the Blues looked like the better team more than the Predators looked like the better team last night. But it was time, and I want to get into, of course, the controversy about last night's game, because I got into it on Twitter, and oh my God, Twitter cracks me up. You can put any opinion out there on Twitter that you want to, and of course, I guarantee you'll never be able to put an opinion out that more people agree with than disagree. Like because anyone who disagrees with you on Twitter will tell you not only they disagree with you, but tell you that you're a total idiot for having an opinion at all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You'll get people that agree with you, and you get people who tell you you're an ass clown.
Which is like unbelievable. Like, yeah, to me, it's just people are so incredible. I get it. I guess it's your chance. I had some NHL players and some supporters agreeing with me, so I was happy about that. But my feeling was the Fiala hit was a dirty hit, and I know that I'm alone on that feeling, but it seemed to me as if the play was obviously going into the corner. It was going behind the net, and the player on Fiala, he had a moment where he could have pulled up a little bit, and instead of pulling up, he literally laid into him, and he got on top of him, put all his weight into him, and buried him into the boards. And I think this was a really, it's just a dirty play in my opinion, and if not dirty, at least a real lack of respect type play that just doesn't, maybe dirty is a hard word to use, or maybe people had trouble with that word. But I think it's really kind of a ridiculous play. And it's a shame because Fiala, we just talked about how well he was playing and how important he was.
He was having a great game, too.
Yeah, having a great game. I thought he was, I wrote him as one of the keys to the series. And if you had told me Fiala was going to be out for the series, I don't know if I would have picked the Predators in the series, to be honest. That's how important I think he had gotten. So this is it was really sad because it didn't have to happen that way. And I mean, you can check my Twitter feed out, right? I posted a picture of the highlight from behind, which really just, and I know it's slow motion, and I know that this play is happening all fast, and I know, and yes, I have played the game, and I understand how this works, and I understand momentum. It's just a matter of, you've seen this play before. You've seen this play happen many times. It's not an uncommon play. Yeah. And I've seen players, ride guys into the boards perfectly fine, and then I've seen guys drive somebody get his weight over top of Fiala, a smaller player, and drive him into the boards, and that's really what it looked like to me.
Here was the hard part for me.
Yeah.
The hard part for me was, and I watched it a few times, and then you sent it to me, so I watched it again.
Yeah.
He definitely is getting pushed, but I can't tell you that Bortuzzo was pushing him full weight the whole time, because at some point Fiala did have momentum. Unfortunately, momentum on his side, and he definitely slid in there. And I don't think Bortuzzo really ran him in with his full force. I just think when he took him out, and he definitely meant to take him out, because Fiala was going to a dirty area where he may have been able to score a goal. So he was taking him out.
I get that.
But I think the sliding momentum is what killed him, and that's why I'm not killing Bortuzzo here.
Yeah, I mean, Bortuzzo leans into Fiala, because I watched it about a dozen times.
I'll throw it up when we look at it.
But I watched it about a dozen times before the show. He leans into Fiala, and Fiala almost looks like he's not expecting it. It's like he's expecting to go around the net and maybe try to do a wraparound. And Bortuzzo is a bigger defenseman who leans into him, and he just crumbles into the boards. And I don't think it's a dirty hit. I just think it's it's unfortunate that it was right at the point, maybe 5 or 6 feet away from the boards, and him losing his edge or losing that physical battle led to him just getting crumpled. And it was released just about an hour ago that he has a broken femur, the thigh bone, so he's out for the rest of the playoffs. But I don't think it was like a Brian Marchment predatory.
No, I don't either.
Yeah,
we're watching now. And here's the thing. Okay, so I can get it on here, right? You're not seeing it. Here it is. Sure. Okay, so here it comes. All right. So to me, I'm fine with most of it. Okay, but at the very end, there's a definite movement towards the guy's. First of all, towards the guy's head, and then so he's getting on top of him and driving him in. And at this point right now, he can't possibly think.
But I don't think he can get out of it. Where could he go?
Yeah.
No, you can easily ride him into the boards. You can skate with him around the net. You can
unless he dives over him. How's he getting out of it?
But see, this is the thing. We're looking at this.
I know.
We're looking at this in reaction to the fact that Fiala broke his leg. If Bortuzzo lets up on him and he goes around the net and does a wraparound on Jake Allen, everybody who covers the Blues or who's an NHL reporter say Bortuzzo was soft and he let the guy score. You cannot act on it that way or look at it that way. Plus, And I think this is what colored, maybe, those who think it was dirty. Bertuzzo doesn't know that Fiala has just broken his leg, and afterward he's pounding him on the back, because he thinks, that's what you do in the playoffs. You're trying to
right.
So I don't think it was dirty. I don't think he'll get suspended. There's nothing from the Department of Player Safety. It's unfortunate. But I think that this is a reality, and you can't expect a defenseman to let up on a forward who possibly could go around the net and score a goal. So
here's the thing, though. As far as the delay in the game, the 17-minute delay.
Yes.
Why can't they have 2 ambulances there at all times?
I think they usually do. I think from what I was told, one of the ambulances that was there got called out.
Okay.
Because of another emergency somewhere else.
Okay.
That's what I was told, at least. I mean, listen, I know I'm not going to win this fight, and I get it. I understand exactly what everybody's saying about this, and I get it completely, 100% can see it the other way. I just can't help but think that if this hit was against Ovechkin or Crosby or something like that, this would be different.
If this hit was against Ovechkin and Crosby, neither one of them would have crumpled. I think they probably
I didn't mean that in that position there. You're very vulnerable there when he's stretching out to go. But I don't agree. I think
they're stronger on their skates than Fiala is.
I don't think it has anything to do with how strong you are on your skates at that point. I
don't think it does either. I think it's just the amount of impact that you have. But I'm not sure. But the one thing I didn't get to say about the game when I had to reboot and everything, 2 things. I was really impressed with the coaching job that Peter Laviolette did after that.
Yeah.
The way he was talking to his guys, because that could have been devastating. I know people always think, well, it's going to galvanize the team. It could also be devastating. Yeah. And he really handled it well. He talked to his coaches, he talked to the players. He was talking to the player. I really appreciate, and we know Laviolette a little bit, like watching him for a year. So this was good for him in the sense that he really settled down his team after a bad situation. And I got to tell you, they got to Jake Allen. They did.
They did. And that break, the Predators came out pissed off. There was definitely an emotional thing about this, about Fiala's going down.
Yeah.
And the Blues came out flat as could be, and the Preds took it to him. I really feel as if, another reason why I'm probably pissed off about this is, like I said before, I really feel as if Fiala's injury tilts the series towards the Blues in a big way. And I think that.
No, I don't think so. You know what? I don't think so. I think I still saw enough out of the blue line of Nashville, especially Ellis, creating offense and causing problems for St. Louis. I think that Nashville will hang with them, and I think they'll still beat them.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a significant loss because Fiala has been, since being recalled. I think he was recalled in February or early March. He's played really well for them, but they still have, that number 1 line with Arvidsson and Johansson.
And Johansson was awesome in that game.
Yeah, he was great. He was great, and they're gonna need him to be great.
And honestly, I don't think that the Blues have anybody to really match up against Johansson physically, because Johansson's a bigger center. Paul Stastny coming off an injury can't handle him. Laterra can't handle him. I don't think, really that's a matchup that the Predators are going to have to take advantage of, and I think they did in Game 1.
They moved the puck really well. It was a fast game. It was an exciting game. I mean, it was an intense game. This is going to be a bloodbath of a series. I mean, I think
it's going to be a great series.
Yeah, I think anybody who comes out of the series is going to be in a lot more pain than whoever comes out of Anaheim Edmonton. Even though I think Anaheim Edmonton will.
No, I would dispute that simply because Anaheim Edmonton was pretty chippy.
Oh yeah, no, and you have the chip. You have the subplot of them just hitting McDavid all the time, right? So that's and that is something that is going to get under Edmonton's skin, and that will grew up. But you have the kind of players on the Predators and Blues. You have more of those kind of players.
Yeah, I agree.
That will take that to another level.
But there was a techie point in this game. I don't know if you noticed. I'd never seen a game in Scottrade live. Is it still Scottrade? Because you never know. Yeah. Okay. I never saw a game there live, but I noticed when Fiala was on the ice and he was having trouble, players were looking in the boards. There was a flat screen TV in the boards.
I saw that. It was really interesting.
Nobody has that. I've never seen that anywhere.
It was a techie thing. I thought that too. I'm like, wow, that was pretty cool.
I must have stolen that from my apartment.
No, but it was an amazing thing, Mike, because players, instead of having to look up at the scoreboard, were just looking at this screen that was embedded in the boards.
Yeah, and we also had a debate on our text back and forth with each other last night about the last goal, whether or not Vernon Fiddler's goal was a bad goal by Jake Allen or not. Because I kind of felt like that was the bad goal by Jake Allen. And my reasoning on that one was that Jake Allen got caught in no man's land. He wasn't aggressive enough he should have gotten to the puck more. Or he's got to stay back. But what happens is he goes halfway and it allows Fiddler to just get his stick out there and poke it over him, basically.
I agree. I think that's fair.
So I felt like that was a hesitant moment by Jake Allen. That and with a lot of these goalies who are positional goalies, they do have a tendency to not go after the puck in situations like that. But Jake Allen, they have to make a decision one way or the other. Like either you stay back in position or you go for it. And Jake Allen
and Rene was a real leader on the ice because with Fiala, he went over there and he sort of nudged him with his blocker, which was really nice to see. And he just played great. Like Pekka Rene right now is one of the best playoff goalies out there.
Rene is an interesting goalie in general because, of all the goalies I've ever covered, he is the least likely personality to be a goalie of any of them, I think. Because,
right.
You know what I mean? When you talk to him, he is not the kind of, like, a lot of goalies are weird. Like, I'll bring up Ryan Miller. Ryan Miller is just tone, flat out weird. And he has, like, he'll have strange, I remember watching Ryan Miller one time set up rows of tape on his locker, in a certain specific, in like an ODC specific order. You weren't allowed to talk to him. You weren't allowed to ask him anything about what was going to happen in the game later that day. And you're watching. I'm just watching him. I wanted to film it. And you're not allowed to film that. You're not allowed to film. This is part of his ritual. He's doing this whole thing. So I watched him, and then I watched him take the tape off after the skate. And he took off one strand at a time. Would roll that up into a fine little ball and put it there, and then throw it over. At the end, throw all of them into the trash one at a time. It was like this whole thing of like now. But Pekka Rene, you can talk to him 5 seconds before the game, and he doesn't freaking care. Like Pekka Rene doesn't have any of that in him. He doesn't have any of that goalie superstition type thing to him at all.
No, I watched him after games a few times. He has no ritual either that I can tell.
He is literally he's a player on that team who happens to be playing goalie. Like
it's the same as Lundqvist. Lundqvist is the same way.
I was going to say maybe because there is sort of a differentiation between the European goaltender and the North American goaltender.
I think that's true.
A guy like Frederik Andersen is very understated, very sedate. The kid that played for the Marlies last night, Kazimir Kaskasuo, he played in U.S. college, but he's a Finn. Very, very the same way. I've been in scrums with Tuukka Rask, and you just said Lundqvist, but. No, like a guy like Braden Holtby. I mean, have you ever seen the routine that he goes through? This eye visualization thing. He looks like he's spacing out, and
he's my favorite goalie in the NHL, and I love watching Braden Holtby.
But it's bizarre. It's really strange.
Oh, it's strange, but he is, but it's all very calculated with him, and it's very he is to me like the epitome of the goalie personality that you want. Like he's absolutely every part of it. He has a little bit of quirkiness to him, which is just fun, because you want a little bit of quirkiness. But he also is so friggin' solid and so relaxed under pressure. I mean, there's nobody more relaxed under pressure than Holtby in the NHL. Like that's where he and Lundqvist do. Now Lundqvist is relaxed under pressure too, but we've all seen things get to Lundqvist. I've never seen anything get to Holtby.
I saw you very relaxed in the shootout, or you were just slow. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, that was totally psyching our buddy out.
No, but and Lundqvist isn't relaxed. You're just losing yourself in those beautiful blue eyes of his, Zach.
Lundqvist, he's mesmerizing. He is. I want to bathe in those eyes.
Lundqvist can come out of the locker room, I swear, and just look like he has just stepped out of the GQ magazine. No other male on earth can do that.
I know we talked about this before, but that press conference, it was during the finals, and when we sat in Madison Square Garden, we waited for Lundqvist forever to come out, and we're all like saying, he's going to come out looking perfect, and he came out looking like this guy, like with the whole national media all sitting there hungry, wanting to go to the party to get some food. We're all sitting there waiting to talk to Lundqvist. We talked to Strom, we talked to all the other people that came out. And then finally Lundqvist gets out there, and he looks like, he just stepped out of the GQ magazine. Honestly, I don't see he and Rene's personality at all the same. Like, I think they're very different.
No. The calmness and no ritual. That's what I mean.
No ritual.
Yeah, I mean, Rene comes out in a tracksuit probably.
To him a little bit. You know Lundqvist better than I do, but I think he's got more superstition. Where Rene really doesn't have. It's like I've talked.
Lundqvist really doesn't have any superstitions.
Really? Okay. Because I talked to people in Nashville one time. Because Rene, I was down there and they were with my son after he had some medical stuff done, and the Predators were really nice, and they brought him into the room and everything like that, and Rene was there, and they had a game at night. I'm like, and I say to my son, I'm like, don't. He's the goalie. Don't, gotta leave him alone. Just just say. And the guy's like, oh no, this Rene, Pat, come talk. He came over to talk. He was just really, really nice guy. Just like solid guy. So I have to say that I'm a real big fan of like almost all the goalies that are playing right now.
And I got to say, Lundqvist was very good about squirting Gallagher with the water bottle without the ref seeing him. That was amazing.
Lundqvist is sneaky. Like, don't get you wrong. I mean, but Lundqvist has that, like Marty Biron has said that, he's got everything, have to have everything perfect. He might not be superstitious, but if he's got the slightest injury at all, where Rene will play through almost anything.
That's true.
And
Well,
so Rene really feels like Rene feels like you took Radko Gudas and put goalie equipment on him and just say go in there.
Lundqvist would have tried to jab him in the nads with his stick, Russ, but he would have had to find his nads.
All right, goodness gracious.
Just kidding, folks. Just kidding.
Title, find his nads. All right.
That's the title of the show. Find his nads. Come on.
That's the title, yeah. So that game goes on. The Predators win that game. I really don't get a feel for the series yet. And I will throw this out to you guys. We sat here yesterday on the show and made our predictions, right? And we all predicted to win the series. I think in 6 or 7, we all said the same thing.
Yep.
I sat down to write my article before that started, and I changed my mind and went with Edmonton.
Oh, come on.
No, you can't do that. You're disqualified.
No. You're not allowed.
You're allowed up until game time. You're allowed to flip.
Do you have a time? Do you have a time, date, stamp on that?
It's on my blog from yesterday. You'll see it. It's like 5 o'clock at night. And I read it. It's on my blog, and I wrote. I even wrote that I changed my mind. It's like I don't know. Something just hit me that for some reason, just a gut feeling that Edmonton was going to win this. Now, I still don't know. Like last night, I felt like at times Edmonton was really good, and at times Anaheim did outclass them. I felt like there were times when Anaheim looked way better than them. You got 2 goals from Adam Larson. That's not going to happen every day.
No.
And so they got through it. They stole a game. I mean, I felt like Edmonton stole that game in Anaheim.
I think that's fair. I think there were a few things that happened that really were unfortunate. Like when Manson knocks in a puck, clearly Gibson had that shot lined up and Manson knocks it in. That's bad. When you have a 5-on-3 because of really stupid penalties that your teammates take, and Getzlaf's stick literally breaks 1 second into the 5-on-3, you know that they're going to score immediately on that.
A 5-on-2. That was crazy. I mean, watching a 5-on-2, that is really unfair.
It really is unfair.
But that being said,
go ahead.
That being said, I didn't think Gibson was particularly strong in the game, and Edmonton, the concerns about their defense, I think, still have to be there because up 3-1 in the third period, you have to lock that game away. And within the span, I think it was 1 minute and 30 seconds, Anaheim tied up the game. I mean, the one thing that was interesting was that Randy Carlyle, after the game, was not berating his team, that's too strong, but criticizing his team, especially some particular players not being physical enough, not stepping it up. Which is strange because they took some stupid penalties and Edmonton scored 2 power play goals in that game. And if you look at the first round series against Calgary scored 6 power play goals. So if Anaheim steps it up physically and takes dumb penalties like they did in game 1, that could be the recipe for their disaster if they don't kill penalties better.
That's fair.
Yeah, that is fair.
I was trying to fix the contrast on my phone. Never mind.
I think that is fair, and and that's exactly what you expect from him. He's a great coach, and I think that that game was interesting. The incredible thing about this season, one of the stories that really has to be mentioned is the Adam Larson's for Taylor Hall trade. As it continues. I mean, I know he scored 2 goals last night, but this is one of those deals that really has shown the difference between the value of a defenseman and a forward in the NHL.
Well, I'm glad you bring this up because for teams out there like the Sabres, like Toronto, and a number of other teams who are going to be trying to get defensemen. I mean, you mentioned yesterday in your blog about the Vlasic deal. I don't think that the Taylor Hall for Adam Larson deal is precedent setting because for one simple reason. Edmonton was so desperate for a defenseman that they had to overpay, and they had a bevy of forwards. You're like, if a deal happens this summer for a guy like Vlasic, I mean, that's a specific situation where San Jose has him for another year. They might not be able to sign him. They're not going to have the type of leverage that New Jersey had with Larson, where a team is desperate for a defenseman like Edmonton was. I don't think that will set a precedent in the league. It's not going to be where every team is going to have to trade a number 1 pick or a franchise level cornerstone forward for a 3 or 4 defenseman. It just doesn't work.
I think that's fair, Mike. I do. Yeah, I'll tell you what. The one thing that really stuck with me in that game was, and I believe it was during the 5-on-3, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has an absolute open net, and I think he hit all 4 sides of the post. Like, he rushed the shot. He did.
He really good last night, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Like that was the best game I've seen him play in the playoffs so far.
He's snake bitten.
He is snake bitten. At one point, he was carrying the puck, and it was funny. The announcer I was listening to. By the way, I think one of the best radio groups, because last night I was kind of thing where I had some television on, they were falling asleep. No, my son was up sick, and all this stuff was happening, and I have the game on, and I'm also listening on headphones to the play-by-play on Sirius off my phone, so I could hear what's going on when I wasn't around it. So I was listening to the Oilers radio team, and they are maybe one of the best radio teams. Like the play-by-play people for the Oilers, I don't know who they are, but they are so fair and level, like and in a great way. Like not just usually players are these people are so pro their team. But they were like, when it was 3-3, normally, the Oilers taking a 3-1 lead, the team comes back and ties at 3-3. That's when you would hear a home team radio team, get like a little bit down or whatever. And they're like, oh, we got ourselves a hockey game. This is fun. That was the attitude they had. So it was really nice. Anyway, that's an aside. But I'm going to just to finish the Larson thought, Mike, for you, and then I'm going to touch base on what you were talking about, Russ. There, I don't think it's precedent setting in that you always have to trade a guy like Hall to get a defenseman. I agree with that. What might be precedent setting is showing teams how important it is to get a defenseman. Like showing, and that doesn't mean you have to go out and get this, trade away a player that's taken first overall, but it does mean that it's worth trading a good player to get a defenseman. Because a good scorer, like a sexier player for a non-sexy player, kind of nothing personal with either of these guys, but you know what I'm saying? The forward is a sexy player. Defenseman you wouldn't want to sleep with, if your life depended on it. So that's how I see it.
What?
I'm just. You took the analogy a little too far.
Metaphors, but I'm like, you know what I'm saying. So I'm just
TMI.
saying. Yeah. Goalies, on the other hand, we're pretty damn hot. But I think that what you're seeing there is really. I do think that guys like Vlasic are more valuable because of what's happened with Larson. I think teams won't be, and teams can just. I think this: when a team makes a trade like this, Edmonton took a lot of heat for that deal. Now,
and I think they should. And I still think they should because
they should anymore.
No. Just because Adam Larson scored 2 goals,
not just because Adam Larson scored. They're in the playoffs. This team has been really. They've been better.
But wait. There was no way the Devils were going to make the playoffs just because they got Taylor Hall.
I'm not the Devils. I'm talking about the Oilers. The Oilers are a better team because of that trade. That's the bottom line.
But okay, that trade in and of itself did not make the Oilers a playoff team. It was it was Clefbaum being healthy.
It made a better team, and the trade should be determined that if a trade's going to make you better.
But not solely because of that trade. They added Russell. Clefbaum stayed healthy.
There's a lot of other things. I agree, but
so wait. So you're saying that Taylor Hall didn't make the Devils better?
No, Taylor. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that I think Taylor Hall was.
Well, it can't be one way. It can't be one way.
Trades can work for 2 teams.
Yeah,
they needed what Taylor Hall brought. They needed what Adam Larson brought. That's fine. It can be a trade that works for both tems, and that's what I think it was. But I think that at the end of the day, a lot of people over the years have been afraid to trade away players that have any kind of like cachet for a player that's like a defenseman, a 3-4 defenseman or whatever, because that seems ridiculous. That seems crazy. And I think that this trade will make that a little bit easier for teams to do. That's all I'm saying.
Well, okay, and that's where I think we separate here, because Edmonton needed a defenseman. They needed depth on defense. Their situation was unique because they had so many top-end offensive players that having that many, it's like an NFL team having 3 all-pro wide receivers. You're not going to get full value for an all-pro wide receiver because you have 3 of them. Right. So the value of Taylor Hall was reduced because Edmonton had McDavid and Yakupov and Eberle and Nugent Hopkins and they were going to sign Lucic. I mean, they were so desperate for defense that they would not get full value for a franchise level cornerstone player like Taylor Hall. It benefits both teams. Taylor Hall will score goals with New Jersey. Larson will be a solid 3-4 defenseman with the Oilers. But if I was those 2 teams, I would take Taylor Hall over Adam Larson every day, and twice on Sunday. Every day.
I got to tell you guys, this conversation is as dumb as strawberry nut M&Ms. Look it up.
Wow.
By the way, the broadcast crew for the Oilers is Jack Michaels and Bob Stauffer.
Thank you. Yeah, Bob Stauffer. Yeah, Bob Stauffer's always been good. They really are they just really are solid. I was just impressed. Anyway, I mean, I think that I thought that Edmonton looked okay. I thought that Anaheim did a great job on McDavid, and Kessler will make McDavid crazy, and that's fun. That's a fun part to watch. That's what's fun about it. It will be definitely a different series when they go to Edmonton, when they can get him away from him a little bit.
And this will show the growth of McDavid because early in the year this year, and I've talked about this a few times, that game in Toronto where it was billed as McDavid versus Matthews, and the Leafs matched up Nazem Kadri against McDavid, and Nazem Kadri could annoy Jesus. He could get underneath his skin, and he did get under the skin of McJesus because McDavid lost his cool in that game. He was smiling. He was annoyed. He was completely annoyed. And last night I saw the same thing. There were a couple times where after the whistle, Kessler would push him, would nudge him, and you got the smile from McDavid. And that, I mean, he didn't score a ton of. He didn't score. It was Draisaitl who was the big guy yesterday. But if they keep doing that and McDavid doesn't respond, that's going to be a big key in this series.
But why did it take so long for Anaheim's offense to kick in?
I don't know. That's what I think.
I think that's the result of the break. Like I think sometimes that's my opinion on it. I don't know. Like I think we'll see less. We saw less of that in the Nashville. We saw St. Louis's offense take a while to get going too.
But I think that's because Svoboda was clearly playing hurt. Like that hurt him.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I think Anaheim's offense started to really get into gear, and then it felt as if Larson doesn't score that goal, it really felt like Anaheim wins that game. Like it really feels like that's why I felt like the stolen games. I thought Talbot was weak at times. I thought Talbot. There was a really bad goal. Was it the third goal? I think that Talbot let in. That was really not a good goal.
I mean,
I was nodding off at that point.
Yeah, the one that was video. Okay. The video review is good. I mean, that goal, if they would have waved that one off, we're getting to the point now where, I mean, Kessler, he really didn't interfere with Talbot, and I think that's or in terms of impeding his motion. If his stick had come in and he had prevented Talbot from getting over to try to stop the puck, then I think it would have been waved no goal. But right now, there doesn't seem to be any kind of set criteria when it comes to goal or no goal.
It feels like it's fluid, like the whole thing. Like,
yeah, and I'm telling you right now, it's going to break a team in this playoff. It's gonna destroy the will of a team at a certain point in a certain game where a goal should count, and it's gonna get waved no goal.
I do think that the Hawks. I still think that the Hawks game, that one goal that should have. I think the Predators shouldn't have been allowed, and the Predators got it. I think that if the Predators don't score that goal, they probably don't win Game 3 against the Hawks, and if they don't win Game 3 against the Hawks, who knows what happens? So that I really think. I mean, for what it's worth.
Let's not go there yet. I'm not ready to go there yet.
Well, momentum in the NHL is a crazy thing.
I know, but it's not that much. I'm not going there yet.
No, I'm not saying that they would have definitely lost the series, but I think we would have seen a different series. I don't know that we would have seen at least 5 games, and with 5 games you could have at least seen 6. So it's like one of these things. To me, it goes a little bit further.
Let's have a quickie draft discussion. You up for that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Okay, so one of the guys that I really like in this draft is Casey Middlestat, kid out of Minnesota area. He had an interesting season because he played part of the season for the Green Bay Gamblers of the USHL and part of the season for Eden Prairie, in Minnesota, and he was the captain of that team. He actually played from mid-September to mid-November in Green Bay, had like 30 points in 24 games in a really good USHL league, then went and played in high school, and he had something like 64 points in, 27 games, something like that. But he didn't win a Minnesota State championship. He was trying to win that. He didn't get to win it. His team lost, I think, in the semis, but he won the Mr. Hockey Award. This guy, he's already 6 foot, 6'1", 201 pounds. He's a centerman. He's smart. He's fast. You can look him up on YouTube if you want to see just amazing plays. He's got a lot of highlight plays. He played in the All-American Prospects game. He played a little bit for the U.S. national team. Like, he is just a tremendous all-around player. I put him third in my rankings. I maybe was the first one to do that because I just saw that we're not even seeing the best of him yet. Like, I think when he continues to move up the ladder, we'll see better things out of him. And I believe he's committed to University of Minnesota, so he's staying all Minnesota. And a lot of times when guys have that pedigree, we've seen them. They usually do pretty well in the NHL.
Oh, that's going to be fun to watch. That's great. Interesting. I had not really heard of him very much.
Mike, you got any thoughts on Middlestat?
Well, I mean, I do know that, he's probably, from what I've done in terms of my cursory research for the draft, I mean, it sounds to me like he's for sure going to be in the top 5. I mean, I would be sort of surprised if he didn't, but I don't know whether he's going to get up into the, the stratosphere along with Patrick and Hischier. It sounds like those two are going to go 1-2, but Middlestat could move up as much as number 3. And, that I mean, if he gets up there, I mean, I'm sure there are more than a few teams that are intrigued by the skill package that he has.
We have a lot of time to talk about this, but I had one question about this, Russ.
Yep.
Because someone asked me this the other day, and I said I would ask you, so I'm going to do that now. Nolan Patrick, is sorry, seems to be the number 1 pick. If he assuming he was a year younger or a year older, and had come out in the draft last year, where would he fit? Like, where would you have slated him if he had been same guy, same amount of skill right now coming out in the Matthews draft?
Trying to think.
I'll say it first, Russ. I think Matthews, Laine, Dubois. Yep. I think he gets picked in the lower part of the top 10, maybe 10th. I mean, Sergachev, Keller. I mean, all those guys, I think, are probably. They're
still ahead of them. I think somewhere between 8 and 10.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, and that's not to say, like, again, I'm not on the bandwagon at this a weak draft. I'm just.
No, look, I mean, Brady Tkachuk, who's a 2018, the way he played in the under-18s, a lot of people think he could be number 1 next year.
Right.
And so, not number 1 next year. Sorry, he would be number 1 this year.
Yeah.
But he won't be next year.
Yeah, the 2018 draft is, I mean, and we don't know. We're what, 14 months away from that. But right now with Svechnikov, with Tkachuk, Dahlin, you're talking a draft that's more along the lines of 2015 and 2016, because those drafts were loaded, I would say, at least the top 12 and maybe even the top 15 of both those drafts. You see players that are going to be difference makers in the NHL, whereas I don't know if you maybe have 5 in the top 15, maybe 6.
There's a lot for 2018. There is Wahlstrom, Olofsson. Like, there's off the top of my head, Veleno. There's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But there's going to be a lot in this one, too. It's just this. I did 45. If people go to Sportsology, I ranked 45. I still had a hard time ranking that 45, and it's not my final. The final will always be on the show. I always will do that on Hockey Prospect Radio. But on the 45, there's still guys in play. There's more than 45 in this draft, in my estimation, a lot more.
And what I've said before, and I'll say again, I think this draft could be more exciting in the sense that one draft board is going to be remarkably different than another draft board, which I think opens up the possibility of trades, because somebody may want Timothy Liljegren And if he's there at, say, 10 or 11 or 12, then a team in the 20s seeing an opportunity to get a guy who might be in the top 5 on their draft board will trade up to get that guy. So I think there's going to be more.
If he's there by 12 and I'm going to be on live radio, I hope they have a defibrillator for me because I'll be shocked.
Oh, man. I think I'm following up 1 second.
Well, just to touch on a couple things that, because
following up on a rumor, I might be able to share.
All right, okay. But the 2 teams right now that don't have coaches, one team that doesn't have a general manager, there's still a lot of talk in Buffalo regarding who's being interviewed. Apparently, Dean Lombardi has not been asked, so it doesn't sound like it's going down that road, at least for general manager. There is some talk that the Sabres are going to hire a team president, which if they do that, then I think that the fears of a lot of Buffalo fans can be quelled a little bit, because if Terry Pegula and Kim Pegula are in charge of are heavily involved in hockey operations, I think that's a sign towards the Sabres sort of fumbling this situation. We do need what we can mention is there was a story that broke yesterday about the Bills that basically said their entire scouting staff will be cleaned out after the draft, possibly the GM as well. Yes. Now, this does affect the Sabres because you talked about the one guy who's a crossover between the Sabres and the Bills, and then, of course, the same owner. Yeah, and the justification for clearing out the Bills general manager and the scouting staff, they use the example of, they've cleared out Tim Murray and they cleared out Dan Bylsma, so they may as well clear out everybody on that. They just hired a new head coach, so we may as well clear out everybody and start anew on both sides. I mean, that's not a reason why. Either they're good or they're not good.
See, this is what we were talking about, the volatility now within that market.
Oh yeah, no, it's really interesting. I mean, and I've talked to a couple people now who have been interviewed that aren't officially out there yet because they're trying to keep it secret. I talked to somebody that all I can tell you is this: they're interviewing a ton of people.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
This is not, I think when all is said and done, it's going to go down as probably the most people that have been interviewed for a GM job.
Well, this is
at least 12 people that I've been able to count so far. At least 12.
But this is the thing that'll be curious. If they do not hire a team president, somebody who would be in charge of hockey operations, and then hire, say, a younger general manager, if they go the direction of just hiring a general manager and somebody who has not been a general manager before, this is the model that happened in Toronto about 10 years ago when they hired John Ferguson Jr. and they had the MLS&E board and Larry Tannenbaum meddling into hockey operations and destroying that team. And if Terry Pegula and Kim Pegula are meddle into hockey operations with a general manager who's just thankful to have a job, that is an unmitigated disaster for the Sabres. They have to hire a team president who can run things.
It sounds like they're going to. Like, from talking to people, I've talked to people who've actually interviewed for that job. So
yeah.
For the president job, as well as people who interviewed for the GM job, and some people who interviewed, like one person who was going to interview for both of them. So, as not to be both, but be one or the other. So, yeah. There's
that's good.
An unbelievable amount of people interviewing for that job. There's no question.
And the other note was that Florida has interviewed. Is it Jim Montgomery, the head of the coach for University of Denver?
Yes.
for the head coach position. Now there's still an interview process going on there. So
he's a real good coach. I think he would do a good job.
Yeah.
I also remember Michelle Therrien, and I've been looking into that. I don't believe that's true. So, but I'm just chasing. I've been chasing it down. I'm trying to get him details about that shortly here.
I wonder if Jack Capuano would be involved in an interview process in Florida.
I think someone will interview him.
Yeah. Also, I got to hand it to you guys before. I know, Mike, you said this, and I totally disagree because it didn't make any sense to me. But it does appear like Evander Kane will not be back in Buffalo.
I think I may have been the first one to say it, but hey, whatever.
No, I mean, a lot of people have been saying it, but I just felt like I would talk to a couple people early on who said, he had such a good year, but the feeling does not appear to. I mean, it could depend, I guess, on who they bring in, but
sure.
That person. But really, the feeling is. Somebody called it unsalvageable to me. And
I think the odds of Evander Kane getting moved increased with the departure of Tim Murray, because Kane was tied to Tim Murray because that was one of the big deals that he made. But with a year left in his contract, coming off a good year, there might be teams that will overlook his off the ice indiscretions or problems, because he can score goals. And if it doesn't work for those teams, he's an unrestricted free agent, so it's a low risk move. But the thing is, I don't think the Sabres are going to get full value for Evander Kane, because
no way.
If you put Evander Kane and James Van Riemsdyk side by side, and you see who's going to get a better value, it's going to be James Van Riemsdyk by a landslide.
No question. I mean, that's definitely the case. Couple weird stats. Draisaitl has 7 points in the last 3 games. We talked about Draisaitl yesterday.
And he was a shark on faceoffs too.
Yeah, and he was a bust. He was a bust last year or the year before, right, Russ?
Yeah. I remember we laughed about that.
Yeah.
Predators have won 5 games in a row, which is more than they won in the regular season in a row. The most they won in the regular season in a row was 4. That's always fascinating.
They could be the hot team going into the playoffs, and we never really spotted that.
And I'm kind of mad at myself for it, because another thing that we need to bring in. I mean, obviously I like the Preds too, so I usually will go with the Preds if I can. But I was blinded just like everybody else was. I think if they hadn't played Chicago, maybe we all would have given them more of a chance. But the fact is that everybody thought Chicago was that much better. But when you go from the middle of the season on, the Preds are like the fourth best team in the NHL. So that's another factor you always have to take into account, because especially like the last 20 games of the season, it really matter. How a team's playing does matter.
Heck, I say you should just write a sad country song about it. That's what most people in that city would do.
Yeah, I know. All I'm saying is it's playing out rather nicely. If the Predators can win this series,
I agree.
They match up pretty well against Anaheim and Edmonton. So it's interesting. It's playing out nicely. I've always said that I think the coolest thing in the world would be to cover a Stanley Cup final in Nashville.
Yeah, I can tell you the NHL media will be fully rooting for Nashville to get to the final.
Everybody loves it there, and I can't imagine a cooler place to have a Stanley Cup parade than down that row. That's just
If they get into the Stanley Cup Finals, I will cover it.
Yeah. Young Street in Toronto wouldn't be bad for a parade.
Young Street in Toronto, but Broadway and Nashville, that would be so. It's such an incredible Stanley Cup parade.
Young Street in Toronto. I'm trying to think when the last one was.
Yeah. Thank you.
50 years ago. Like I said, I'm the curse of the.
Russ, 1940.
So the Coyotes apparently were rejected.
That used to work.
The Sabres apparently approached the Coyotes about their general manager. Did you see this too?
Yeah, that's the scary thing here is that
the Coyotes said no. Sorry, he's our general manager.
Okay.
This is like an indecent proposal moment in the NHL.
I don't know why you would do that as a team, unless they felt like there's a problem in Arizona.
Yeah,
could it be that the 2 NHL teams that went really heavy into the analytics aspect of management realized after 12 months that was a disaster?
No, but at least the one thing I could say about Arizona is they still have young talent to fall back on.
Yeah, but when is it finally going to be realized? It's like, I think
it's realized. I think it's realized to the point where it's back to being a part of the equation, and that's it.
Yeah.
No, I think it's realized already.
The Jack Adams Awards finalists are out. I want to talk about that briefly. Mike Babcock, Todd McClellan, John Tortorella.
Mm-hmm.
All interesting in the fact that they're all, on their second or third teams, but they're, it's kind of, usually you have a guy in there that's not necessarily, these are all not recycled, but, players, coaches who coached other places as head coaches.
It won't be shocking when I say this, since I cover the Leafs, but I actually think it. If you base it on the most surprising year, it's. I think it's Torts and it's Babcock.
I agree.
Going from 30th place to a playoff spot, and going from I think it was 27th place, and being one of the top 3 teams in the league are great feats for a couple really great coaches. I think one of the things is that Tortorella has won the Jack Adams before, so that might be something a little bit against it. And Babcock, who's considered one of the best coaches in the league, has finished second and third in 2 previous Jack Adams nominations.
I find out he had never won that.
Yeah, that is odd, but it's good for job security that he never did.
You're right. Yeah,
I would favor Babcock. I think Babcock is going to win.
I think it comes down to those 2 as well. I think Tortorella probably deserves it a little bit more, just because he took a team from almost as bad to really, really good. But
I think it's a coin flip. I do.
But I also think that we know that this is voted on by the media, and we know. And I think there's no question who's more popular among the media between Mike Babcock and John Tortorella. So I think that at the end of the day, Babcock will win this thing.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that plays into it. Because
I think it does.
Doesn't have a lot of fans out there, but he definitely does, has earned that, not having a lot of fans in the media over time. But he was very good this year, so there you have it. All right, let's get into the NHL Draft Lottery Simulator, shall we? Oh, before we do that, one quick thing I want to show you guys. One quick thing. This is great stuff. Like this, I don't often give graphics departments at NBC a lot of credit, but this is amazing. Can you guys see that the poster for tonight's game? Here we go.
No.
Right? You're gonna love this. I love this. I think at least this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Here it is. Pens versus Caps.
Don't like it.
Come on,
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
Nope.
That's weak. That is
weak.
I think that's amazing.
No, it's weak.
That is
amazing.
so.
No.
That is so weak. I'm sorry.
I love
Don't
it.
like it.
What the hell? Me too, guys. I think it's great. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm all for this.
That doesn't. I'll tell you what. For as good as that series is going to be, as a fan of the game, it evokes nothing out of me. Whereas if I see players hitting each other, or the two best players, then I get more excited.
Or the face of Crosby and Ovechkin,
of course. But how many times? I mean, gosh, we've never seen that before, right? I mean, come on,
Sometimes you just go with a good thing, Eck.
Yeah.
I don't know. I believe
no. This is the equivalent of the Italian Hero sub commercial from Subway that we're gonna see ad nauseum for the next 2 months.
And here's the other thing: if I'm the Penguins, for one thing, a pen is pretty obsolete in this day and age, and a big pen at that. Why aren't I a Mont Blanc? I mean, I just won the Stanley Cup. If I'm a big pen, I think I'm a last place team.
Well, you guys are overthinking it. It's just a fun pun. And that's all I can say. It's a fun pun. Ready? Draft Lottery Simulator time. And this might be the last one, right? No.
No, one more tomorrow, and then that's it.
One more.
Oh, we looked at it. Here we go. Ready?
That's math.
The Dallas Stars. They won yesterday.
Again.
Wow. The fix.
2 days in a row. Okay. Followed by the Tampa Bay Lightning.
This is the same order. No. Okay. Now the Devils.
And that,
right.
yeah. Lightning.
Tampa Bay would get Heishier, and that Russ, would that accelerate the trade of Jonathan Drouin for a defenseman? I think it would.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's something. Wow, there you go. So that's a good one. All right. All we can say from now at this point is I'm really upset that the game in Ottawa isn't starting at 10 o'clock tonight. I'll throw that out there as well. I hate the fact that we have these two games starting at basically the same time. At least
Can we just? I mean, if this was a creation of NBC, then thumbs down on NBC to have the two Western series go at 8 and 10:30, overlapping each other, and then
but you know what they want here, Mike. This is what they want. They want to be able to. Well, actually, is it at least staggered by a few minutes or no?
Half-hour difference tonight.
Yeah.
Yes. So this way they could go to studio from the one game and show highlights and maybe a live look-in from the other. That's what they seem to like.
It's just so. It's so.
I'm just telling you, that's what they want.
Oh, I know.
It's okay. Wait.
Do you want to hear more Mike Milbury or less Mike Milbury and see more action?
Yes.
I just want to see the games on different days. I want to have double headers, 7 and 10:30.
Yeah, I would rather them start one at 7 and one at 8:30 tonight. I don't know why you can't start a game at 8:30 in Ottawa, but what the heck? I'll say because people out there would probably love it because getting the traffic.
Nothing goes on in Ottawa.
No, I just think that hopefully we'll see like an overtime game tonight, so we'll get to watch one of them. But who knows?
Never know.
7:30. At least you won't have to deal with the in between periods thing where you have to watch them. You're right about that. I do like the Keith Jones commercial about about Milbury's memes and stuff like the memes.
Yeah, that's funny.
It is funny, especially knowing Keith Jones.
Yes.
I want to know how much they had to pay him to do that, or how much he had to pay them, I should say.
I laughed.
He may have paid them to do that one. Anyway, remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We'll talk to you tomorrow.